In Nigeria, the powerhouse of African football, expectations ahead of the World Cup are running high after an impressive qualifying campaign. Of course, in the past, similar high hopes have been dashed by off-the-field problems, prompting some to label the Super Eagles the world's most dysfunctional national team. But this time, the Nigerian team is enjoying unusual peace and stability, and many Nigerians, like Federation President Amaju Pinnick, believe that will translate to World Cup success.
We are not just going to the World Cup because we want to see Russia. We've seen Russia before. We are going to the World Cup with a mission, and the mission is to win the World Cup.
Nigeria did not play in the World Cup until 1994, when it made an impressive debut.
And we had very fantastic players. Now, if you look at that squad, many of the players in their individual wings could be about the best or second best in any position in the world.
Against Italy in the second round, Nigeria seemed to emerge victorious, only for Roberto Baggio to equalize in the dying minutes and winning it for the Italians in extra time. 2 years later, however, a young Nigerian squad would not be denied at the Summer Olympics in Atlanta, knocking out both Brazil and Argentina on their way to an Olympic gold medal. Chaos brought on by successive military regimes in Nigeria in the 1980s and 90s eventually spilled over into the way football was run in the country. The Nigerian Football Federation, broke and in disarray, became embroiled in a series of scandals, with players complaining about having to pay bribes to get on the national team and not getting paid once they got there. The constant changing of coaches didn't help, especially when such changes happened right before a World Cup, as was the case in 2002, and 2010, when Swede Lars Lagerbäck was brought in just months before the World Cup in South Africa, leaving him with little time or resources to prepare his squad.
Jag fick ta ut en bruttotrupp. Jag hade inte ens träffat väldigt få av spelarna.
Leading up to the most recent World Cup in 2014, it seemed as if Nigeria had finally got on the right track. Head coach Stephen Keshi, a former national team defender, had managed to stay in the job for 3 years. But in the days before a second-round match against France, the Nigerian players went on strike, refusing to train because of unpaid bonuses. The Nigerian government was forced to rush $3 million to Brazil.
The Super Eagles sitting down to sort out how to share that money on the night that we're going to play France the next day. And imagine how that affected our concentration.
Nigeria lost the match 2-0. Government interference in the election of a new president of the Football Federation caused FIFA to ban Nigeria from all international football. The issue was eventually resolved, but there was even more trouble 2 years later at the Olympics in Rio, when the Nigerians became stranded in Atlanta because of a problem with payment for their flight. The team eventually arrived in Brazil, but only on the day of their first match.
We cannot succeed like this.
When the head coach Samson Siasia left after the 2016 Olympics, it was the 19th time that Nigeria had changed coaches in 15 years. When the German Gernot Rohr was appointed head coach in the fall of 2016, few people believed he would be able to steer the Nigerian ship straight. Rohr was seen as little more than a journeyman coach, and would have little time to prepare before the start of the World Cup qualifying campaign, with Nigeria also drawn into a very tough group, including Algeria, Zambia, and Cameroon. The only person who seemed confident that it could pull it off was Rohr himself. And the Super Eagles did get off to a flying start with a win away to Zambia. They racked up a string of impressive victories in 2017, and qualification for Russia was clinched with a game to spare. Despite losses in 2 friendlies in March, there is a buzz of optimism around the Super Eagles heading into the World Cup, says Captain John Obi Mikel.
When you look at this team now, so many young players, so many talented young players, and they all want to work for each other. I think this is the most important thing. We all want to work for each other. And the new coach as well has brought a lot of discipline into the team, and the boys love it. You know, we love the discipline that he brings into the team. You can see in the games now that there's more focus in the game. There's more attention to details when it comes to set pieces, free kicks. We don't concede goals like we used to concede before.
Perhaps most importantly, there's renewed stability off the field. Finances have improved with a number of corporate sponsorships secured.
So we're having a new focus, a new orientation. The government system seems to have realized that there is need to let the Football Federation be.
Federation President Pinnick is confident that mistakes of the past will not be repeated in Russia.
On the part of the Federation, we have done everything humanly and materially possible in ensuring A to Z of our dictates, of our transaction with the players are kept.
Of course, Nigeria could win the World Cup, he says.
Spirit of oneness, the spirit of Niger, it gives you that vigor, that drive, that nobody can shortchange me, nobody can trample on me, nobody can stand on my head. And that's the spirit that we are taking to the World Cup.